A few years ago, the journalist Gershom Gornenberg had arrived home after Rosh Hashanah evening services to find two police officers standing in the middle of his apartment. Surrounding them were puddles of water and smoke and soot. Now, these gruff Israeli police officers looked at him, and one of them calmly said, "There's been a short circuit in your refrigerator. There's been a fire. You can't sleep here." In a moment, his life was turned upside down. Just minutes before, he was at temple, praying for a good and sweet new year. And now, he was homeless. And how could he not think about the prayer, "Who by fire and who by water?" These high holy days often invoke the feeling that we are powerless to change our destiny. The image, of course, is the book of life. On Rosh Hashanah, the book was opened, and God wrote there the outcome for the year ahead. And tomorrow evening, as the sun begins to set, the book will close and inscribe there our future. The aforementioned Unatana Tokef prayer reminds us in very stark language God's role in our lives. All who come into the world pass before you. You count and consider every life. You set bounds. You set destiny. You inscribe judgments. This High Holy Day refrain challenges us. How do we remain optimistic if life simply happens? How do we stay hopeful when so much remains outside of our control? Gershom didn't ask those questions when confronting the fire. Instead, in an opinion piece penned in Moment magazine, he wrote these words: "What those Rosh Hashanah prayers, who by fire and who by water, really tell us is that much of life simply happens. It's written for us in advance. But it's written in an alphabet that we knew in a dream and have half forgotten. It's written in the middle of the page, and around it we write commentaries that teach us how to live. We are given the real omens, but we decide what they mean." Gershom, rightly so, could have been pessimistic, depressed, even angry about the fire. Instead, he was able to associate the experience with gifts of generosity. You see, when word of the fire spread, his neighbors came to his aid. Friends invited him over for a Rosh Hashanah dinner. Others invited him into their house to spend the night. Clothes were provided. Kindness overflowed. Gershom reminds us that we don't have to feel vulnerable. There is a power in our ability to define our story. We can learn from our past, define the present in our own terms, and look towards the future with hope. Yes, the Unatana Tokef states undeniably that God controls our destiny. Yet can you imagine a world where God controlled everything? Why live life to the fullest? Why even attempt to make a decision if everything was foreseen? This loss of control would lead to apathy and despair. Fortunately, the Unatana Tokef concludes with words of hope. Teshuvah, Tefila, Tzedakah, ma'avirin et roah hagezerah. Repentance, prayer, and charity temper the decree. Although much remains outside of our control, it is not everything. We have the tools of Teshuvah, of repentance, and of Tzedakah, righteous giving, to change our destiny. We have the power to forgive and act with humility, to change our ways. We have the power to respond to our struggles with patience, to accept all of our limitations, and to reshape our understanding of ourselves. We have the power to listen and to change and to act. And our actions don't necessarily have to be big ones. It can be the little things. For Mark Olmsted, it's picking up trash. Yes, picking up trash. Mark spent many difficult years as a drug addict who sold crystal meth to support his habit. And after months in prison and a commitment to sobriety, he knew that he had to make amends. And picking up trash was it. After moving to Little Armenia, a neighborhood in Los Angeles, his first reaction to all of the trash piled up on the streets of his new neighborhood was to think about the well-known serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept all the things I cannot change, the courage to change all the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. As he walked his dog every day and he saw all of the trash piled up on the street, he thought that it was just something he had to accept. I mean, really, what was he going to do? Pick it up? That's exactly what he did. He went to Home Depot and he bought one of those easy reachers. And like that, he walked around his neighborhood picking up empty cigarette packs and soda cans, fast food wrappers, and styrofoam cups. For Mark, picking up trash taught him to question all of the assumptions that he had previously made. Was the only possible reaction to traffic to be angry and frustrated? Was he a hopeless addict who couldn't possibly get sober? Picking up trash helped him answer other questions as well. How can I be of service today? What do I have the courage to change? And each day as he went to sleep, he knew that that day he had done one thing that was unarguably and unambiguously good. In a very significant way, Mark's story illustrates our Jewish understanding of hope. Our tradition believes that hope is achieved through action, through that difficult hands-on work of Teshuvah, of repentance, and of Tzedakah, righteous giving. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, the famous writer and rabbi, expresses it this way: there is a difference between optimism and hope. Optimism is the belief that things will get better. Hope is the belief that together we can make things better. It takes no courage to be an optimist, but it takes great courage to have hope. That's the heart of these High Holy Days. As Jews, we aren't just optimistic that our future will get better. We recognize that in order for our world to become that place of wholeness and peace that we envision, we have to act. Yet even with the ability to shape our destiny through Teshuvah and Tzedakah, that return to our best selves and giving back to our community, we know that there is still so much that is outside our control. These are the moments of despair and pain that only the Holy One or only Mother Nature can foresee. How do we understand these challenges? How do we find hope when so much is in God's hands? One answer is found through a story told by the late Rabbi Hugo Green. Many years before becoming a rabbi, a young Hugo lived through the Holocaust and spent some time as a child at Auschwitz. One year it was Hanukkah in the camps, and his dad decided to make a menorah and to take their margarine rations and melt them down so that they could be used for the oil to light the wicks. Now, when young Hugo heard about this, he protested to his father that this was a foolish act. They needed every ounce of food in order to survive. How could they use a precious resource to light a Hanukkah candle? Rabbi Green never forgot the answer that his dad gave him that day. My child, you can live 3 days without water. You can live 3 weeks without food. But you cannot live 3 minutes without hope. In so many ways, Rabbi Green and his father felt a loss of control. They couldn't stand up to the Nazis. There was little that they could do to protest, and there were few ways that they could escape. Their opportunities for action were limited, yet there was an option: Tefila, prayer. Lighting that menorah, reciting those Hanukkah blessings, provided Rabbi Green with the belief that tomorrow could be a better day, that his dreams and vision for the future could someday soon come true. That's the power of prayer, the power of hope. For each of us, there are those moments in our lives when we feel fragile, vulnerable. It's that phone call that begins with the words, "I'm sorry." The email informing us that the position has been filled. The doctor's report that seems less than optimistic. Or the disappointment that once again the pregnancy test reads negative. These are times when all seems lost. But like Rabbi Green, we have control in the power of Tefila, hope, faith, prayer. Rabbi Simon Jacobson teaches that Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year because it marks the birth of hope. Yom Kippur is our moment of rebirth when our future is inscribed in our book of life. There will be much written in our book of lives over the year ahead. There will be moments of simcha and moments of challenge. There will be moments of health and moments of illness. There will be moments of triumph and moments of despair. Many of us find it easier to turn towards Teshuvah, acknowledging all our past mistakes and working towards forgiveness, or Tzedakah, defining the present on our terms and engaging in righteous giving. Yet how many of us struggle with Tefila, actively engaging in prayer to develop a vision for our future? Personally, prayer for me is that vehicle that brings hope into my life when every other tool has been exhausted. Prayer helps me connect with my community, to articulate my dreams, and to converse privately with the Holy One. Yes, so much remains outside my control, but prayer provides me with the sustenance to get up in the morning and to take one step in front of the other and push myself to achieve my dreams. Almost 4 years ago, on a freezing cold January day, Brian and I heard from our adoption agency that finally we were matched with a birth family. And less than 2 weeks later, we welcomed Caleb into our lives for the first time. And with paperwork signed a few days later, we arrived home, a family of 3. Today on Yom Kippur, I wait again. I wait for a second phone call with the good news that my family of 3 will now become a family of 4. That once again, I will be a father. Now, waiting is not easy, especially with so much outside my control. At this time of year in particular, I try my best to do Teshuvah, to learn from all my past mistakes. I pour my energy into Tzedakah, eager to make our community and our world a better place. Even still, sometimes there's a pause in my day where I feel a sense of emptiness, a feeling of despair creeping in, and I don't wallow in self-pity. Instead, I turn towards Tefila. I pray and I hope that all my dreams will come true. And I pray and hope that all of our dreams will come true. Shana Tova.